Hello, I'm Bill O'Donnell, and welcome to another program on spirituality. I'm thrilled to have as my old friend here Bishop Daniel Dangaran of the Catholic Apostolic Church of Antioch here, an independent Catholic church, and he is now the Bishop of the Southwest. Welcome, Bishop Daniel.
Nice to be here, Bill.
Daniel came 6 years ago. He was just graduating from massage school, I believe, and came into service, but now he has been elevated to the episcopacy, and he is a bishop here of the Southwest, so it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
And that's what the cross will kind of give you the indication. We know who we're talking to now. But Daniel's a terrific guy, and although I haven't experienced him on the table, I don't think did I ever get a massage from you?
I don't think so.
Sin of omission. We're going to call it a sin. But there's no sins in the Antioch church that I know of, but we'll have to talk about that later. So give us a little bit about your background for those who didn't see that program, and share with those at home how you got to the priesthood.
Well, I was born, as they say, a cradle Catholic, Roman Catholic, and when I was 17 years old in California, I entered the Jesuit novitiate, and I was with the Jesuits for 17 years. And when I left the Jesuits, at that time I was the director of campus ministry at the University of San Francisco and the University Ombudsman. And then after that, about a year after that, I co-founded 2 hospice programs in San Francisco right at the beginning of AIDS, and did that for 10 years until I moved here. And about 9 years after I'd been here, I found out about the Church of Antioch. And after not being an active ministry for many years, I joined and became a priest with that church. It's been 7 years now. And 2 years ago, I was consecrated as the bishop of the Southwest for our church.
All right, so for those who don't know, you were ordained to the priesthood in the Jesuits, right?
Correct.
And so how many years between, or what was the process of transfer? Because you mentioned previously that you were laicized.
Yes.
Could you explain what that means?
Laicization is a juridical process where you ask the Roman Curia to be dispensed from your vows, and it is a way that the church has of allowing you to go back into what they call a lay state, and to marry and to do all of the things that ordinary people do. It's quite a lengthy process, and as we were talking the other day, it's akin to a physician having training and being licensed.
Or graduating from medical school, and then they suspend his license.
Right. And so laicization is a way, essentially, of taking away that license while you still have the capabilities. And the Roman Church recognizes through a doctrine essentially brought over through St. Augustine that priests and bishops are always priests and bishops.
That's right.
So they just can't practice if they get laicized. Right. Though Rome has one thing that it allows all laicized priests to do, and that is to offer the sacrament of reconciliation if someone is near death. They can always give absolution.
Right. So you received the sacrament of holy orders twice with the church, as a deacon, transitional deacon, and then as a priest.
Right.
And then what was the process when you became a priest in the Church of Antioch, because you're already a priest?
Yeah. What happens is it's, again, a juridical or a legal relationship. They call it incardination. And so what happens is that the Church of Antioch recognized my ordination and allowed me to come into this jurisdiction and to practice as a priest.
Okay. For those Catholics out there, I mean, they probably always want to know and wouldn't ask this question, but I asked it already, so I always want to know, I always ask priests, what happens when you lay your hands over the bread and wine and consecrate it? So it's no longer just bread and wine, it's the actual body and blood of Christ. And what was the difference that you experienced as a Roman Catholic priest and then as a priest in the Church of Antioch?
Well, on one level, there was no difference because, again, I was telling you before, ordination to the priesthood, one theologian said to me, I thought a little bit cynical, but he said, the next morning you'll put your pants on one leg at a time. You won't feel any difference. And that was not my experience. My experience was that there was awakened within me these qualities of connection with the Christ and to the sacrament of orders, which allows then this energetic to flow through you. I felt it, and it was more than psychological. It was an opening, an ascension, or as some people call it, an initiation into these higher realms of spirituality. And that was 35 years ago, and I'm still integrating that. And when I came to the Church of Antioch, it was over 25 years before, or since I had celebrated the Eucharist. And this is the different part. I was different. Through those 25 years of having all of these experiences, I was changed. And so I was surprised, really, when I got up to preach and to celebrate the Eucharist, how wonderfully easy it was. There was, I hope, less resistance to my basic gift of presence, my gift of presence from God. And so when I get up in front of the congregation and offer the Eucharist, it is an incredibly joyful experience. On some levels, even though, by the time I'd finished I hadn't even finished the complete training of the Jesuits after 17 years, even though it was a wonderful experience that I had waited for many, many years, and a painful experience not to be able to offer these sacraments, I was not as mature, hopefully, as I am now. And so the gift was appreciated an awful lot more.
I want to just give a personal anecdote for those Roman Catholics out there who've done this and perhaps haven't had experience, but I was telling him recently I was a sponsor for a young woman who was going to receive confirmation in the Roman Catholic Church at St. Francis Cathedral Basilica. And so I was just happy to be there for her. And at the time of the consecration, the Archbishop goes by and he anoints them on the hands and the forehead with the holy oils. And I just had my left hand on her right shoulder. And when he anointed her, it was like a wave of light came through me and filled me with light. And it reminded me of my own confirmation when I was a little kid, I guess about 13, 14 maybe. And I thought I was just imagining things then, but when I had the experience again, just as a sponsor, we know there's something going on. So, and I asked that to a couple of priests and said, what do you expect? He's a bishop. Now, for you, my question for you is, because I asked you this question, when was the first time then that you participated in the consecration of the priest? And you told me it was actually in elevating someone else to become a bishop.
You mean to the bishopric?
Yeah.
And
you said?
I had the great privilege and honor as a newly consecrated bishop. I was only a bishop for a year, and I consecrated another bishop, a woman, because in our church we accept women, and we also ordain and consecrate gays. So let me please go back a little bit. Before I was even a bishop or even bishop-elect, my Archbishop Gundry, asked me to perform a minor ordination to the minor orders. The Roman Church no longer does minor orders, though I experienced that as a Jesuit. But when I, as an archpriest, ordained this person to this minor order, I was, like you, surprised at how much energy flowed through me. And so when I went through this process of not only being consecrated, what happens is that there's only one really orders, even though we divide it up into deacon, priest, and bishop. It's just a successive opening to that relationship and that orientation and that openness to the Christ energy. As a bishop, and see, I can even feel it now. As I raise my hands like this, I can feel that energy come and begin to move. Because what we are servants. We are servants not only of the Lord, but the people of God. And we are servants in the sense of we open these energetic pathways. We call it apostolic succession. In other traditions, they call it passing on lineages. Buddhists do that. Hindus do that. Shamans do that. We open to the divine and allow that divine energy to flow through us. The closest thing that maybe people would experience in the lay state is when they are with their children. When children are born into a family, it is the most incredible experience. And I have 5 children of my own.
And essentially, you left the Jesuits to get married eventually, right?
Well, eventually I got married,
Yeah.
and had these children. They're wonderful, wonderful gifts. They're the greatest teachers in the world. And they allow you to move from a state of self-orientation to a state of selflessness. There is just something. They just reach right into your heart and they pull out goodness. I mean, when my daughter, I have 5 boys, and my last child is a little girl, and she's 9. And when she looks up at me and says, "Daddy, I love you," you know, everything melts away except for the love that I am. She shows me that I am love, even as I want to help her experience that. And my sense is that's what all of us are called to, but especially those of us who consecrate our lives, dedicate our lives in spiritual service. We are here to be mirrors of the love of God, the divine presence that I see in you. You know, I reflect that to you, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're here, I hope.
Yeah.
And I hope you can see that at home, too. You brought it up, so let's just contrast it briefly. You're experienced as a celibate member of a religious order and a priest, and then your experience out, and since you've become, and then as a husband and a father, and then as a married priest and now married bishop. Can you give some insight from that unique experience? There are not many married bishops that I've met, so you're the first, actually.
Well, how can I say this?
You alluded to it with your family.
Yeah, everything is a gift. I mean, that's one of the gifts that I got from the Jesuits. Jesuit spirituality is about finding God in all things. And my experience of celibacy was on a very practical level, that you didn't have to worry about going to dinner. You didn't have to worry about picking up your kids. There was a kind of dedication, and I really value the celibate state for those who want it, who feel it as a genuine call. To legislate it for everyone, I think, is problematic. Not only for me, but evidently for a lot of other men and women who have left the religious life or the priesthood. So it gives a kind of, celibacy gives a kind of freedom and an orientation. But what I experienced as a married person and as a husband and father was that it opened up areas in my life, in myself, that I had not access to. There's a sense of sacrifice, making holy in the celibate state. But there is also an incredible sanctification that happens through all of the relational and emotional and the physical connection that you have with your family. It is qualitatively different. I'm not here to judge whether one is better than the other, or to criticize and say that either the Roman or Orthodox churches need to change their policies. I have my opinion about that, but I support whatever these churches want to do and whatever those people who are dedicated in ministry want to do. I just know that there was more of me that was available, and I think is available because of my experiences.
Oh, great. All right, now let's talk about your church. It is an independent Catholic church, not aligned with Rome.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
let me
go
clarify. Because sometimes people will say we're independent and we have no connection to the Roman Church. That's not true. We have a connection because we are Catholic. We have a connection because we have apostolic succession, the handing on of the sacramental ministry through successive bishops all the way back to the apostles. What we don't have a connection to is through obedience and through law or jurisdiction. We are not under the jurisdiction of the Pope. And there are many, many independent Catholic churches. On some level, you can call the Anglican Communion and the Orthodox churches independent because they seceded from the Roman Pontiff many, many centuries ago. And there have been, throughout the 2,000-year history, many that have gone and become independent because of doctrinal or disciplinary problems. But what I like to stress is that we are Catholic, just like the Anglicans are Catholic. We have this sacramental orientation. There's only one God, there's only one Christ, and there's only one sacramental system.
Okay. Well, give us a clarification then. What are the differences between Roman Catholicism and the Church of Antioch?
Now, the Church of Antioch is only one example of independent Catholicism, and there is a continuum from those who are much more traditional and those who are less traditional. The Church of Antioch was founded 50 years ago with the sense or the charism of connection through the priesthood, apostolic succession, and yet freedom from some of the what we would experience as limitations regarding what we talked about the other day, which is the magisterium, the teaching aspects of the Roman Church. We consider that we are what's called a non-creedal church, so we do not have a creed that everyone has to abide by.
Explain what that would mean.
Well, that means that you don't, well, in every Roman church throughout the world, at every Mass they say the Nicene Creed. And that creed allows us to have a sense of tradition and connection. But there are many different there are many different ways of looking at some of these doctrines and some of these belief systems. And within the independent Catholic movement, and especially ours, we are much more oriented toward the mystical. We are much more oriented toward the esoteric. We admit to God working in all areas and all kinds of spiritualities. And I really like that because I've met rabbis, priests, ministers, shamans, even atheists that I feel are doing the divine work. And one of the things, I mean, some people find it strange that I would say even an atheist, but I find that atheists do a particularly wonderful service for us. They ask us, what kind of God do you believe in? And what they say essentially is, well, that God doesn't seem real to me. And I used to get that all the time. You know, as a Jesuit, I'd go to cocktail parties or something, and someone would come up and say, oh, I don't believe in God. And I'd ask them, well, what's your God? Tell me about your God. And then afterwards, I'd say, well, I don't believe in that God either.
Okay. Hey, give me an example now. The sacraments. Do you formally do the sacrament of reconciliation, confession?
We
do you have the same concept of sin and grace?
Well, it depends. Again, because we're not a creedal church, there may be some priests who feel that they're more in alignment with the traditional way of looking at sinfulness.
But you as a bishop, do you have any control over those priests?
I have jurisdiction in the sense of the granting of faculties and the supervision of that ministry. But I have no right in our church to tell somebody what to believe in or what to preach. And that's totally different from mainstream Catholicism or Orthodoxy. But we believe that essentially the Spirit is given to us, and it is a spirit of freedom, not necessarily a spirit of dogma. Because, again, theology is a reflection upon experience, and the development of doctrine is a communal way of saying that this is the way we believe, and if you believe that, fine. If you don't believe that, then we exclude you. We don't have that concept.
So you can
Just like
essentially believe anything.
you can believe pretty much anything because we are given free will. If they want to be connected with this Catholic ministerial or sacramental ministry, then we allow them to do that. It needs to be Christ-centered. That's the one thing that Archbishop Herman Spruitt, the founder, insisted upon. And yet we have many who have studied Buddhism, Hinduism, shamanism. I myself am an ordained kahuna, a Hawaiian shaman. It's just different ways of experiencing and expressing that divinity.
Well, then, we've only got a few minutes left, but give people a sense of what the benefits. For instance, as a Roman Catholic, I've been baptized, I go to the Sacrament of Reconciliation on a regular basis.
Right.
I come out feeling spiritually cleansed. And then when I receive the body and blood of Christ, I mean, I feel it. It's a real zing.
Yeah.
And then I receive the sacrament of the anointing if I'm sick or ill or that type of thing, and I experience these things. Those are the benefits that come to mind, plus all the good works that the church does to the poor and all the rest of it. What are some of the benefits that you've experienced or that you're aware of within the Church of Antioch for someone who's out there looking for, hey, maybe this is it for me? You and I have both met a lot of, say, former Catholics who are not going to get off their high horse, or they're not going to forgive whatever hurt happened to them, and they're looking perhaps someplace else. What would you say to them what benefits does your church offer them?
Well, my sense is what we offer is a true experience, or a deeper experience, a wider experience of the interface between the divine and the human. We take very much to heart the what would be called the doctrine of the Incarnation, that divinity and humanity are one and can be experienced through the sacramental system. Now, that sacramental system can come through the main 7 recognized sacraments, but it can also come through what the Roman Church calls sacramentals. I prefer to see it all as sacraments, because sacraments, you mentioned baptism. Baptism did not happen for you or me or anyone else on one moment in your history. Baptism is a constant opening up to the presence of God, to this mystical interaction between what we call the divine and ourselves. It is also, all the sacraments have all the sacraments within themselves in some way. So what I see is that these sacraments continue to work. You go to Eucharist and you find it a very supportive and
Uplifting.
Yes, and you see, for me, when I get up there and I confect the sacraments, or the Eucharist, it's not just the elements of bread and wine for me. I say those words, take and eat, this is my body. I say it in Christ and my connection and identification with that Christ. I also say it out into the community. So essentially what I'm doing, and not just those people that are there, I'm saying that to the whole of creation. I'm saying that to everyone that exists in the world. And what I am essentially saying is that the Christ, God, loves you in everything.
Right. One more question I should ask. Okay, in Roman Catholicism, I don't know if you can see these 2 books, but these are a handful. Both of these books have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
What, if any, are there any differences? Because you've come from both traditions now.
Yeah.
The Catechism and the Bible really have a lot to offer. What books does your church encourage their members to read, or where do they go for their history, their support, their soul?
Yeah, it would support any of these books and anything else that gives them this genuine experience of intimacy with God. So I think the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu scriptures, is one of the most incredibly inspired and inspiring works. And there are many teachers. You can't look at the Dalai Lama and not say that this man is an incarnation of love and openness and joy. Or, you know, I've met shamans who do that. I've met, everybody is capable of being that divine presence. It's a matter of identifying and realizing that.
Yeah. What happened in your, of course you didn't have to go to seminary because you were already ordained, right?
Right.
In your seminary, what are the differences that the priests are taught other than what we've seen here in the Catechism and the Bible?
Well, there's a lot more openness. Of course, you need to remember, I was ordained back in 1974, you know, as the Native Americans say, back when dogs could talk. So there's constant development. And in our curriculum, it's a lot more open to different traditions. But essentially, you know, all seminaries, it's a matter of emphasis. There are some seminaries that would, you know, Protestant seminaries would say, this is the book. This we don't care about.
Although Pat Robertson gave it his endorsement. I heard it myself. I wouldn't believe it. Pat said the Catechism was a great book, and he was serious and reverent about it.
It's one. I mean, I was reading it here before the program. It's a wonderful synopsis of history and the history of doctrine and the development of dogma. It certainly gives you, in a nutshell, what the Roman Church believes, and as such, it's a wonderful book.
We've got to get you back here, and once you've read it, and we'll see if there's any changes. Because I think people are looking, you know, people are hungry and they're looking for service.
Absolutely.
So only got a couple minutes left, so I want to give them to you as Bishop of the Southwest. What would you like to say to the people, in just basically a minute, about the benefits and if they're welcome and how they contact you and where do they go?
Well, everybody is welcome in our church. We have an open communion. We offer the sacraments. And essentially, what I try to do, and I think most of us try to do who are ministers, priests and bishops, is to be servant, to serve that divinity within everyone, to call that forth, to recognize it, to say, we see you for who you are. We know that at times things are difficult, especially like now, and the voices of negativity and the collapse of huge areas of our culture, world culture, are occurring. And what we ministers, priests, bishops want to say is, we're here. We're here for you. If you need to talk, we're here. If you need somebody to complain to and be listened to, we're here. We stand as your brothers and sisters in service. We want you to be the best you that you can be. And we offer all of these different ways, primarily through the sacraments, but essentially it's all about being present to one another.
Well, I'm thankful for your being present today. We've run out of time. We want to extend our greetings to my dear friend, Archbishop Richard Gundry, who couldn't be with us today, but it was great to have you, Daniel. I hope you'll come back. And I hope you guys will take advantage of this medium and get out there and share more of your service to the world. So on behalf of everybody here at Spirituality, our director Marshall and George behind the scenes, and our camera people Alana and Joseph Dante, it's been a blessing to have you here, and I hope it's been some value in your life. Please watch the credits. There'll be a number and a website you can go to learn more about the Independent Catholic Church. So on behalf of everybody here at Spirituality TV, and especially our guest, Bishop Daniel Dangaran, I want to thank you for viewing, and stay tuned next week for another program on spirituality.